Good morning, everybody. I'm Anthony Ray here on the Ray Law International channel. I want to welcome everyone joining us today as we have a very, very interesting topic for you guys. But remember, today is all about you. If you have immigration questions, we want to hear from you. All too often, we get a lot of questions every week from every angle, from employment to family to removal. And, we're here to help you guys. This hour that we set aside is for you and people that you know who have immigration questions or issues. As I mentioned at the top, my name is Anthony Ray. I'm one of the 3 immigration attorneys here at Ray Law International. We focus on employment-based immigration, and we represent clients throughout the U.S. and throughout the world. That's our passion, and we love working with companies and individuals, just bringing everyone to the U.S., with that, goal of, getting people here, achieving the company's goals and the family's goals as well as they start a new life here or new work here in the U.S. We have 3 offices where we service everybody in Michigan, Illinois, and in New Jersey. And I've been practicing a little over 20 years, and Lauren Pardis have also extensive experience in the immigration field. So today I'm going to turn it over to Lauren for a brief introduction.
Hello, my name is Lauren. Like Anthony said, I'm one of the attorneys here. I work out of the Chicago office, but I work with clients all across the U.S. In family and employment based. So like Anthony said, if you have a question, whether it's related to our topic or not, feel free to ask it. Otherwise, we do have in the scrolly thing our contact information. So feel free to give us a call and we can set up a consultation to discuss your personal matter. So yeah, now to Saki for the weather report.
Good morning from Chicago. I'm wondering if everyone wonder about what Chicago weather is. Today is sunny, super sunny. I have like a tiny window from here that I can see it outside a little bit. It's bright sunny, 73 right now. But then the inside this office is like really cold right now. So I'm drinking hot tea. So, okay. All right, so let's speak Japanese a little bit. おはようございます。本日は、米国移民法に関しての質問で、特に医療従事者の方の、ケースですね、に関しての、セミナーとなっております。ご質問等ございましたら、E メールもしくはこのチャットですね。でもしくはお電話番号も載せておきますので、お電話でもよろしいですので、どしどしご連絡ください。よろしくお願いいたします。Okay, are you guys ready?
We are ready, Saki.
Good. All right, so the first question to Anthony. I recently finished my U.S. residency for the state of Michigan with a J1 visa. Can I apply for the permanent residency?
Very, very good question. And this is one that many medical students face here in the United States. So if all things equal, yeah, you can apply for U.S. residency. Now, when we talk about U.S. residency, what do we mean by that? What is U.S. residency? Most of the time when we use that terminology, we are talking about getting a green card, not just getting a temporary work visa. Those are the two options, get a temporary work permit or a green card or lawful permanent residency. So the question here is, if I'm in J1, can I apply? The first straight answer is, of course you can, unless something is prohibiting you from doing so. So there's nothing that would restrict them or a J1 holder that is unrestricted to apply for a green card. Now, when we talk about green cards, there's a lot of options. We'll touch on that today as we get into more details. Now, one of the things that is sort of hidden, a little secret in this question is the J1 restricted in some form or matter? And one of the things I wanted to share, and we'll get into this and talk about it, but I'm going to put this on the screen here. So if for those who are in H1B, for example, or in J1, they may have an issue. Not actually H1B, excuse me. If you're in J1, you may be subject to this, or this may be on your passport. It'll say subject to INA section 212E, or it'll say you're not subject to INA section 212E. And how many people out there really go out there and check the regulations or the act to see what is out there? Not too many. But just to let you know, what that really means is basically you are subject to a 2-year foreign residency requirement. What does that mean? That means if you are subject to this, then before you do anything else in the US, you have to return to your home country and reside outside the United States for 2 years. Now, there's many reasons for this. One, the main one is the J1 is an exchange program. And what that really means is it's not really a visa to come here, work here, and stay here. It's really an exchange where the individual comes from their home country, they gain the knowledge, the skill, the education, and then they take it back to their home and, better their community, better their country. And a lot of people do return to their home countries and make a huge impact. But some people, they would like to stay here. And so what you have to do, and we can talk about this a little later, is possibly getting a waiver from this restriction. Okay, so, the quick answer is yes, unless there's an exception or a restriction.
All right. Thank you, Anthony. Okay, so the next question is to Lauren. I am a registered nurse. Do I qualify for an H1B visa?
So if this answer is going to be that it depends. The H1B visa in general is for professionals, which USCIS takes to mean people who have the US equivalent of a bachelor's degree or higher. And the position must also require a bachelor's degree or higher. So many nursing jobs actually do not require a bachelor's degree. It depends state to state. So if your state will allow you to be a nurse without a bachelor's degree, that's not going to qualify you for the H1B. There's other elements or options that you could take and still become employed here as a nurse, but H1B isn't going to be an option for you. Now, if you are in a state that does require nurses to hold a bachelor's degree, or your employer is, I should say, in that case, yes, you would be able to apply the H1B visa. Also, many nurses are specialized. They can specialize maybe in cardiac care, neuro, something like that. They have extensive experience, maybe in an ICU. Here, Anthony's putting up some examples of certifications, midwife, clinical. Any of these types of degrees will require a higher level of education. So in that case, even if your state doesn't require a general nursing degree, they probably do require it to require a bachelor's degree. They probably do require it for some nursing type positions that require a lot more education. So it really depends. Definitely come talk to us and we can look at the position that you're being offered as well as your education to make sure it's a fit. Saki?
All right. Thank you, Lauren. Next question is to Anthony. I am an emergency medicine doctor. My employment authorization document, EAD, expires in 25 days. Can I expedite my EAD application?
Thank you, Saki. So, this is a very good question. First of all, does everyone know what an EAD is? That's your employment authorization document. Often you will get this if you're doing OPT or STEM OPT. And for whatever reason, or maybe you get authorization based off of a green card, whatever it may be. The EAD is Employment Authorization Document. It's used in many immigration categories, ranging from asylum to U visas, VAWA, I mean, you name it. The EAD is a hot topic. Also, you'll see this year, there's been a lot of lawsuits for slow processing of these applications. But let's get back to the main question here is, can you get or expedite it? And the question is yes, there are ways to expedite under certain circumstances. So the USCIS has laid out certain restrictions or certain requirements for people to qualify to get their EAD expedited. Now, it sounds really good. If you have some kind of employment emergency, this is a great one. Maybe you're a nonprofit organization and this person is really critical to the operations, and if the doctor's not there, they can't do the ER medical work that's necessary. So there's a great case in this to get it expedited. Now it sounds good, but in reality, it doesn't work as easy as you think it should. This is a clear case where we need someone. It's an emergency. It's vital to the operations of the organization or hospital, and it would be a no-brainer, right? Unfortunately, the USCIS is not that clear on, granting its expedite request. So sometimes, you may have to request a couple times before the USCIS understands. So don't wait 25 days. If your case is been pending for an extreme long period of time, let's say more than 6 months, and you're coming up on a deadline and you need that employment authorization to continue to work, go ahead, contact your attorney and make sure they're actively making these expedite requests with the USCIS so that you're not panicking at the last minute. You don't want this emergency to create yet another emergency for you.
All right, thank you, Anthony. Next question is to Lauren. I own an at-home nursing company in Japan. What visa do I need to start a new subsidiary in Chicago, Illinois, and a transfer manager?
Yeah, so this would likely be the L visa. You can use an L visa to set up a company even if it's not set up yet. So the USCIS and the consulates will put a lot of scrutiny on these cases, and they will only approve the L status for 1 year at a time when you're first getting started. However, you can take that manager, have them come to the US, set up the subsidiary, and as long as you submit a valid business plan, and after the 1 year you show that you're following along that business plan and this person actually is managing either people or a function here in the US, you should be able to extend your L visa further and continue in the US for up to 7 years on an L visa. So you could generally do that. You could use a B1 visa, a business visa, to come to the US and start the company. You're allowed to use a B1 visa to sign contracts, things like that. You can also use ESTA, the visa waiver program, depending on the country. If this person's from Japan, they would likely just enter using ESTA and just sign contracts, set up a lease, things like that, where you're not working, you're not receiving a salary. You might be just taking meetings, interviewing people that you're going to hire, things like that. And then those people, once they're set up, you could transfer in some managers from abroad to make sure everything is run correctly and to your satisfaction. So those would be the two options. Most people would probably go with the L visa in this situation. Saki?
All right, thank you, Lauren. Next question is to Anthony. I am a renowned trauma surgeon holding patient for the medical device and techniques. Should I apply for an H1B visa or O1 visa?
Very good question. And, if you find yourself in this situation, our position is you do both. Why not? I kind of equate this to sort of a parachute. Do you want to have one parachute or two? I would prefer two. So both will work, but both have their pros. Well, one has some benefits. It all depends on the facts that you have and how you want to proceed. Another thing that we really haven't talked about here is, why stop at just a non-immigrant? Why don't we just go towards something such as an EB2 NIW or maybe an EB1 extraordinary ability? But anyway, so H1B, what is an H1B? It's a specialty occupation, as Lauren was mentioning before. It requires at minimum a 4-year degree. And, there's a few other rules you have to meet, but it's a good option. The O1 also requires to some degree that you have a U.S. employer sponsor. That's the key here. Both of these require a U.S. entity to help sponsor to bring you to the United States. So it really depends on which one is available, which one is more convenient, and sometimes what is your long-term goals. I would try both. The O1 might suffice and be very sufficient for you immediately because there's really no quota in the sense that it's backlogged. You're going to get the O1 if you apply for it and meet the requirements. However, on the H1B, you got 300,000 people, biting for trying to get a slot of 85,000 visas each year. So sometimes you may only have a 30 or 20% chance of just even getting an H1B. But if you apply for both, that's sort of backup and insurance for you in case something on the O1 doesn't work out. So in this case, the patents for the medical devices and the techniques, hopefully, they're unique. They may be sufficient to, easily meet the requirements for the O1. For the H1B, you already have the degree. You're not coming if you're not coming to practice with patients, then the license for a physician is not necessary. So you can still get your work done, whether that's research or whether it's production, manufacturing, things along those lines. You're going to be able to use the H1B or the O1 for that. Now, I mentioned at the top of this, you might want to just try to go directly for an EB2 national interest waiver. Now, the nice thing about this is that depending on which country you're from, you can file the petition and the green card application at the same time, get a work permit real quick, and then start working while your case is pending. And this may be advantageous to a lot of people out there when, they're thinking, hey, well, I got to get to the US. I need to start working as soon as possible. But, these other two options are going to take time. So I would, by all means, file for both. Both are really good. The O1 may be your first choice. H1B is your insurance backup. And then on top of that, in this scenario, definitely the EB2 national interest waiver.
All right, thank you, Anthony. Next question is to Lauren. I am a Mexican citizen with a US equivalent of a doctor of medicine. I was offered a job to work as a physician for a hospital. Can I apply for the TN visa and practice medicine?
So can you apply for a TN visa as a doctor? Yes. Can you practice medicine? No. For the TN visa, doctors can come to the US and engage in medical research, hold clinical trials, things like that. However, they cannot actually practice medicine, see patients, prescribe medication, things like that. That would require a different visa. So it really depends on what you would be doing in this job. if the job would require you to diagnose patients, you would have to look for a different type of visa in this scenario. However, just research to further your career, things like that are absolutely allowable, and this would probably be the best visa to do so, since TN visas, like Anthony was saying earlier, you do not have to apply to USCIS as a Mexican or Canadian. Mexicans would go to the consulate, Canadians can even just apply at the border. So often much easier and cheaper to do than applying to USCIS and then getting a visa stamp, going through all that. So definitely talk to an attorney. If you are a Mexican national, let us know and we can definitely help you with that. Saki.
All right, thank you, Lauren. Okay, so Anthony, how about the Canadian citizen? Like, I am a Canadian citizen and a registered nurse. Do I qualify for the TN visa?
Thank you. That's a good question. One thing, I just want to jump back to what Lauren was mentioning, just for clarification. The question's a little open, and depending on how you read it, it may be a little vague. If you get licensed as a physician in that state or meet certain requirements for that state, then you could qualify for certain visas. One of the nice things about the visas are if depending on the state's requirement, each state, all 50 states have their own different requirements. So if employment, for example, is required before they can start working, then the USCIS may issue, whether it's an H1B or a TN visa, for a short period of time to allow that person to get licensed and then meet the full requirements of the visa category. So as Lauren mentioned, it's state specific, based off your facts, and talk to the attorney, and we're going to do the research and make sure you meet all the requirements for those visa categories, and we'll discuss all of them, whether that's TN, H1B, or another one. So going to our question, again, this question also a little vague. I'm going to make the assumption that the Canadian citizen is a registered nurse in the US, okay? So in that scenario, they would qualify for a TN visa. So remember, whether any medical profession, you got to meet the state licensing. Whether you're a pharmacist, dentist, doesn't matter. You're going to have licensing requirements, and you're going to need to meet those requirements before you enter into that visa category, generally speaking, unless there's certain restrictions set up by the state. Now, in this case, nurses are listed under the TN categories. Under the TN visa, there's a long list of professional positions which the treaty lays out in detail of what professions qualify for the TN, whether you're from Canada or Mexico. So now, the other scenario, let's flip that around. Let's say you're a registered nurse in Canada and you want to come work in the United States. Well, you can't work as a registered nurse until you meet the licensing requirements. If you don't, as Lauren mentioned, then you can do things that do not require the license. It may be research or other areas we talked a little bit earlier under the H1B, where nurses are not seeing patients, but they're assisting doctors and oncologists and other individuals in an emergency room where they're not interacting with the patient, but it requires their license. So those are some scenarios. So as you can see from our conversation, a lot depends on your background, the position you're going into, and the state requirements. And we're going to be able to help you and guide you through all of that. There's a shortage of nurses and medical professionals out there. The pandemic really did a number on our medical industry. And so hospitals, everyone's trying to fill those roles. And in order to do that, we do have to look to our community, our friends, neighbors from around the world to come in and help support us in this field. Thanks, Saki.
All right, thank you, Anthony. Next question is to Lauren. I graduated the medical school and my brother finished his nursing studies. Awesome. We both wanted to apply for an H1B trainee visa. However, my attorney said I don't qualify. Why? Why is that?
So I think Saki accidentally said H1B, but it is H3 trainee visa.
Sorry about that.
You're good. I just wanted to make sure people aren't confused. So yeah, it's an H3 trainee visa. A trainee visa is just what it says. You're supposed to come for a short period of time, receive a training that is not available in your home country, and then return to your home country. So in this case, since you're finished with med school and your brother is finished with nursing studies, you've pretty much already been trained. And I would have to agree that this attorney is probably correct. USCIS does make some exceptions if there's, for example, a hospital that's approved by the American Medical Association that has residency programs or internships, could do an H3 program in specific instances, such as if there is a break in med school, like summer vacation, and this person wants to stay here, maybe they could do some sort of externship for that summer and just get an additional training. For nurses, if the nurse is going to do some sort of training, it has to be for an outside of the country sort of job. So if there's no actual training in your home country and it's just some sort of brief training and you have an overseas employer, perhaps you could do it, but it can be very difficult in order to get that approved. So probably an H3 isn't the best option in this situation. There's definitely other options, as we discussed earlier, like the actual H1B visa, depending on the nurse's education. But in general, the H3 is, they put a lot of scrutiny on it, and I really wouldn't advise just trying to get this visa as a stopgap or something like that. Saki?
All right, thank you, Lauren. So I guess we're halfway now. That means it's a coffee break. Well, I'm drinking hot tea, but it's a coffee break. So today's question is, what's your favorite food? Anthony?
All right. Well, anyways, I'm going to put a plug in here. I'm going to put this in the chat. So I did a video, and this is really for our Japanese people out there, but it's still good for our non-Japanese speakers. But I go through a list in Japanese of sort of my favorite foods in or Japanese dishes. But basically, just overall, the video talks about my favorite dish, which I'll answer in a minute, but I really like pretty much anything you put shrimp in, I love. It can be pizza, it can be spaghetti, whatever. You put shrimp in it, and everything just really becomes all that more better, and I enjoy that dish. Now, on the video that I just put in the chat for my Japanese, and of course, I've come to love Japanese food. I was born in the Midwest, and the food here in the Midwest was not as exciting. I mean, if you go to Chicago, it's awesome where you guys are at. But, you know, here where we're at, it's like, it's mediocre. It's all right, but it's just mediocre. So in other countries, I mean, around the world, people really put a lot of time into their food preparation. It's more fresh. It just tastes so great. And that's what I experienced in Japan. So my favorite dish or favorite food is going to be in Japanese what you call shabu shabu. And I know Saki and I were talking about this. You can use beef. It doesn't have to be pork only. But they have this in Japan, of course, they have the Wagyu, the very expensive, thinly cut beef and everything. So I enjoy that. I enjoy the vegetables and everything that goes along with that, and plus the sauces. And in the video, when you check that out, I also talk about some of the things that go along with that and my two other favorites. So for me, shabu shabu in Japanese, the Japanese dish.
I guess I'll go next. I don't have so much of an explanation, but I was thinking about it, and I have obviously a lot of favorite foods. Maybe guacamole would be my favorite. I love avocados. I can always eat pounds of guacamole, and then I won't even be hungry for my dinner after if I'm at a Mexican restaurant. So maybe guacamole. Yes, guacamole.
We should we should do a video with Lauren with guacamole in her feed. No?
Yeah. Give me ASMR. All right. My favorite food, I was thinking like the food I like in the US. The one of the food that I was so surprised when I tasted first time was ribs, barbecue ribs. I went to school in North Carolina, nearby Asheville, and they have a great barbecue rib restaurant. It's called 12 Bones. The name is awesome. It's like a middle of nowhere, and just like you eat outside with this aluminum plate, and there's like full rib on it. But oh my goodness, when I ate it, I was just like, what is this? What is this giant meal? Like I thought it came out from the comics, from the cartoon. Like it's giant meat. Something I don't see in Japan much. So since then, I love it. I love ribs, and then the funny part is that I love ribs. I love barbecue ribs, but I don't put any sauce. I eat the dry ribs, which people find so weird.
No sauce at all?
No, no at all. Just want to enjoy the meat itself.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm more like, I don't know, the animal side.
The question is, did you do a half a slab or a full slab or just a
No,
small?
no, no, not the half. You have to eat the full thing, the 12 bonds, No, it's just me eating 12 bonds. Everyone know the half. So,
All right.
just me. But yeah, that's my favorite food in the US. One of it. Yep.
What about Japan?
Japanese food? So hard. I mean, I'm from South, so I have to say fried chicken.
Mhm.
Karaage.
Okay.
Yep. And I'm from the karaage place, so if you're Japanese, you know where that is. Anyway, all right, so we're good with the coffee break. Everyone got some energy back to answer more questions. All right,
Let's go.
let's go. The next question is to Anthony. I have a patient with urgent medical needs that can only be performed in the United States. Is there a way to get them to the United States for care?
Absolutely. In these certain circumstances, sometimes there's exceptions depending on how serious it is. And often hospitals will communicate between each other. And, this is not necessarily uncommon. Now, a couple things that, from an immigration standpoint, let's say we have a little bit more time. When I say emergency, they're flying them in on a airplane or a helicopter and they got to go right into the emergency room. That's one scenario. There's going to be a lot of exceptions in that situation and a lot of factors. You're not going to be calling up your immigration attorney in that situation to go through a lengthy immigration process. But if you have a little bit more time, let's say a family member has a rare case of cancer or skin disease or illness that is, treated, at the Cleveland Clinic or one of the other major hospitals around our country or amazing hospitals around our country. So one of the things you can use is the B2 visa. Now, a lot of people recognize the B2 visa as a visitor's visa. Often if you're coming to, go to New York or Disney World or, Disneyland or something like that, you kind of think of the B2 as that. But it is not limited just for people coming to have fun and vacation. The B2 visa is allowed for other various categories. And one of those exceptions would be this type scenario where we have an emergency, they're coming in for a particular need, and it hopefully will be temporary so that they can go right back to their country. Now, in certain circumstances, maybe there's some war going on or some conflict in the country and there's some medical needs. Another option might be humanitarian parole. Now, typically with humanitarian parole, you're looking at a U.S. citizen who has an issue and they're trying to get family members in because of the problem to that U.S. citizen. However, humanitarian parole is very broad, and it can be used for humanitarian situations, such as getting people the medical treatment that they need. So there's a couple tools in the toolbox, but often, if it's a real urgent medical need, they're going to fly them in and worry about the immigration issues later, especially in a life-threatening situation. You might want to get a politician also in your state involved to help, guide the process through the immigration process. They're going to be able to throw their weight at it and explain the situation. So there are ways. Don't wait to the last minute. There are options for getting people in who do need that urgent medical care.
Thank you, Anthony. All right, next question is to Lauren. I am an H1B visa holder, and my spouse has an H4 visa and H4 EAD. She just graduated the medical school and needs to complete her residency in the U.S. Does she need to change the visa status?
In this situation, no, she would not. If you have any sort of employment authorization document or EAD, that is not tied to any specific employer. It's just the benefit that the spouse of an H1B visa holder can sometimes get. So she can really work for anyone at any time. The only problem with the H4 EAD right now is the processing times. As anyone who holds an H1B is aware, they are horrible right now. USCIS has stated that they're trying to fix this problem, but so far we're not seeing much. So this person may want to consider some other type of visa. Maybe their employer could sponsor them directly just in case, because you can't premium process an H4 EAD. If something happens and the EAD is not approved yet and the old one expires, this person is out of luck. You can try to expedite, but it's pretty difficult to do so, and getting even more difficult since now everyone is trying to expedite all of their petitions. So you may want another visa to, just in case, but it's not necessarily required. H4 EAD can work for everyone.
All right, thank you, Lauren. Next question to Anthony. Do doctors qualify for EB1 exceptional ability?
Well, of course they do, but it's not just as easy as saying, hey, I'm a doctor, I get EB1 exceptional ability. There's a lot of requirements. So what I'll do, and I know exceptional ability or extraordinary ability. I'm going to share the screen and look at a couple things with you guys right here. So, typically for extraordinary ability, I know it says exceptional, very similar, but basically we're going to be looking at, what they've accomplished. Okay. What you have done, a lot of international things. So for example, are you recognized internationally? Do you have prizes? Do you judge events? Do you have publications that are out there? And the nice thing about this is not just limited to physicians working and treating patients. It may be research. A lot. I mean, you look at the Nobel Prize winners, a lot of those people are doing research, not necessarily seeing patients on a day-to-day basis. So basically with this category, which is nice, is, you're going to file under just a two-step process, the petition, the I-140, get that approved, and then also apply for adjustment of status. Now, the USCIS is looking, and I don't know, maybe we can check in, we'll put a note or reach out to us. They are looking at providing premium processing for pretty much all the I-140 category or petitions such as EB 1, 2, 3, and others. So keep an eye out for that. If you're willing to give the government an additional $2,500, they're going to process that quickly. Not necessarily in 15 days. It's a little bit longer, but still, it's a lot better than waiting a year for a decision on this. So, do doctors qualify? Of course they can, but have a professional attorney look through things, make sure you meet all of the requirements, and you want to make sure that, you just don't throw it up there and get it denied. You don't want to waste your money and use it wisely. Also, when we look at these options, you can file under two categories. You can try the EB1 and as well as the EB2. And depending on what you're in, you can also, you can do a national interest waiver. So if your attorney just says yes or no, find another attorney to give you some alternatives. It may not be a home run or 100%, but it's a lot better than just doing nothing or being left out in the dark with nowhere to go. And once your TN comes to an end or your H1B or whatever visa category you're in comes to an end, you have to return to your country. Always, one last thing, be proactive. Don't wait till the last minute. Talk to an attorney, get a consultation, know your options, and then my recommendation is start as early as you can. Don't wait until you have only 1 or 2 years left in your visa category.
All right, thank you, Anthony. Next question is to Lauren. What is the EB2 National Interest Waiver, and which medical professionals qualify for it?
Yeah, so Anthony kind of touched on this a bit. The EB2 National Interest Waiver is under the EB2 category. So maybe Indian nationals or Chinese nationals, where that category has a long wait time for those countries, wouldn't want to consider this. But other countries, this category is open. Basically, the EB2 National Interest Waiver says that you have a master's or a bachelor's and at least 5 years of progressively responsible experience, and you have a proposed endeavor or some job that you want to do. Let's say you're a doctor. You specialize in optometry. I don't know. What is it called? Ophthalmologist. So let's say you're an ophthalmologist, you're highly specialized. You can say that your proposed endeavor is to go into a rural area and you're going to help the people in that area. It has to have national importance, but that can be really broadly construed, right? There is a lack nationally of rural healthcare, so an argument could possibly be made that even though you're just in one place helping the people in that place, it is a nationwide issue and you're contributing to the solution of that. And you have to also prove that USCIS, make a good argument that USCIS should waive the requirement that you have an employer petition for you. So if your venture that you want to engage in is basically just so beneficial that it's really in the U.S. interest to allow you not to have an employer at this time that you're petitioning, you can go ahead and apply for this visa. Now, like Anthony was saying, there's a lot of leeway or wiggle room here, and it's really important to make a good argument that you do have these qualities and your case merits this waiver of having a U.S.-based employer petition for you. So definitely talk to an attorney about it. As Anthony said, you need to be pretty specialized. You need to have lots of papers written. You get some recommendation letters. Hopefully you've been a speaker at a conference or you've reviewed other people's professional journals, things like that. But each case is really different and each person is going to have a different resume. It really depends on making that good argument for you. So lots of people can do it. It just really depends on your personal resume. Zaki?
All right. Thank you, Lauren. Next question is to Anthony. I hold an advanced degree in the medical field in addition to my medical doctorate. Am I guaranteed to be selected in an H1B lottery?
I like this question because the words guaranteed and lottery just don't go together. Otherwise, I, would have put my money into the 1.3 billion and giving guaranteed in that lottery to get all the money. So the words lottery and guaranteed just don't go together. Okay. So in this scenario, I guess the best thing is you have to understand what is the H1B lottery. Maybe the person doesn't understand that. An H1B lottery is just that. There's no guarantee that you're going to get selected. Everyone gets put into this electronic ball, and it all gets mixed up, and the computer pulls out some names and numbers. And if you're selected, great. If you're not, then you're set aside for the general lottery, and you get mixed up and you go through the whole cycle again. Now, the nice thing about this is this process has been expedited because of the secret process they have, which no one can oversee or look into, that the USCIS has put together in order to make the selection. So once the person is selected, then they can move on with the rest of the H1B process and then begin working. Now, one of the things is, in the medical field especially, if you're looking for H1Bs, you want to see if your university is your hospital is connected to a university. Maybe it's a university hospital, and you may not even need to deal with the H1B lottery, as you could be exempt from the H1B lottery, which is perfect. Now, there's some downsides to that, but I mean, getting the H1B and beginning to work, that's fine. And so, can you apply? Yes. Are you guaranteed? Absolutely not. It's a lottery. That's why they call it. Now, your chances are a lot higher than other people, of course. You're not looking at possibly a 20 or 30%. Maybe it's bumped up higher, but the USCIS always puts out each year how many people applied, how many of those were advanced degrees, and how many were just regular four-year degrees or less than advanced degrees. And you can kind of get an idea of the percentage, all right? But if H-1Bs were guaranteed, I think we probably have 400,000 people each year coming into the United States in some professional position or another.
Thank you, Anthony. So I guess lottery is a lottery. There's no other magic or little sneaky way.
And I did not win in the lottery either. So
yeah, but you have to apply, otherwise you never get anything, So that's what the lottery is.
That's true.
Yeah. All right. Next question is to Lauren. I work for the hospital in Chicago as an attending physician. I received a job offer from the different hospital. Can I transfer my H1B visa to the new employer? And when can I accept the job offer?
So in this case, yes, you can definitely transfer the H1B visa. I would assume that if you're working for a hospital and you're transferring to another hospital, that you never had to apply for the H1B cap. Certain hospitals and charities are exempt from applying for the H1B cap. So you would be able to transfer to another hospital or cap exempt entity in that case. When can you accept the job offer? You can accept it at any time. However, you cannot start at your new job until you file the application. So we would recommend that you wait until you get a receipt notice before transferring over, just to be sure that it didn't get lost in the mail or something like that. Then you can transfer over. Many people like to wait until they get an approval just to be sure, which is always a smart thing. But if necessary, you can start working as soon as you get the receipt notice. Now, if the hospital for some reason is not H1B cap exempt, you would have to go through the H1B cap lottery, of course. Let's say you've already gone through that lottery. Same thing. You still can transfer your H1B. All you have to do is have your new employer file the petition, wait till you get that receipt notice, and you can go ahead and start as soon as that start date is on your forms that you submitted. So pretty much the answer is yes, either way, but double check, especially if you didn't go through the H1B cap, you want to be sure that the new entity also is H1B cap exempt. Zach?
All right, thank you, Lauren. Next question is to Anthony. I am a nurse practitioner with an H1B visa. I am assigned to various hospitals for 2 weeks periods. Does my employer have to file an H1B amendment every 2 weeks? I hope not. What's the answer, Anthony?
Well, from the attorney standpoint, that'd be great. Filing every 2 weeks, perfect. Let's do it. It doesn't make any sense to do that, and as long as and most likely with a hospital, they're going to have a really good immigration attorney to guide them in this situation. So typically, you would not find yourself in this situation, and basically what the attorney tries to do is foresee where you're going to be working at. So if these are all different locations in the same area and there's no change in the wage, not a problem. If you're, for example, going throughout the state of Illinois where the wage may change from Chicago to a rural area, then you just have to accommodate and make sure your wage is set at that area and it's included. So we deal with this multiple times throughout the year where we have people who need to work at different locations. A good example of this is the dentist, for example. Let's say in the state of New York, where they're moving around at different locations, seeing hundreds and hundreds of patients, but at different locations. And it's not a problem at all. It's really an easy fix. So leave it to your immigration attorney. If your company or hospital doesn't have an immigration attorney, then you should be concerned. Make sure they get a professional who knows what they're doing and has done it multiple times and can guide the employer to file your H1B in the right manner. So again, it'd be great for us immigration attorneys to file every 2 weeks. It'd be pretty hectic and pointless, but hey, there's no need to do that when proper planning is implemented and discussed between the employer and the immigration attorney.
All right, thank you, Anthony. Next question is to Lauren. My Japanese husband is the owner of the US hospital system. We live in the United States with the e-visa. We are considering selling 51% of the business to a US citizen. Will this negatively impact the business?
Yes, don't do that. For the e-visa, the owners of the business have to be at least 51% nationals of that treaty country. So in this case, there's a treaty between the US and Japan. Japanese nationals who own at least 51% of a business can transfer Japanese employees in. However, they have to prove 51% ownership. As long as you own the majority of the business, other people from other nationalities can own it, but you have to be the majority owner. So be very careful with that. Otherwise, these people's e-visa status would be in jeopardy. They would have to obtain some other sort of visa in order to continue working and living in the US. So in that situation, definitely be sure before you go ahead and enter into any sort of business transaction. You really don't want to mess up, especially if you have other employees on e-visa. It's going to impact every single person. So I think that's it for me. Saki or Anthony?
All right, there's a couple things that I would like to share. Go ahead and put our contact information up there so people can write that down. This really pertains to nurses. As we talked, we really wanted to reach out to our medical field. So for nurses, just historically, you guys may have heard of, or my aunt or my uncle or so-and-so did this, or I saw this on the internet. So I just want to make aware that there were some visa categories for nurses out there. So for example, the H1A visa was established in 1989. And it was to bring in foreign nurses for a specific purpose to help because we had a huge shortage, and that expired in 1997, was never extended. So unfortunately, the H1A was out there. If anyone out there had an H1A, let us know how it was in the chat many years ago, but that was, a long time ago. So if you hear of an H1A, that's what it was. They haven't renewed it. Congress didn't renew it. Even though we need medical professionals, there's nothing special out there. Another visa category that were used by nurses is what's called the H1C. Now, that ran from 1999 till 2009, a good 10-year run, also a 10-year run on this one. And this was also to, help medical professionals, one, get a green card, stay in the United States, and support us in the medical need that we needed. Unfortunately, both the H1A and the H1C are no longer available as tools to us. That's why, we talked about several today, such as the H1B for those who have sort of advanced degrees or in a specialized occupation within the nursing industry. Lauren touched on the trainee for nurses, not the best option. Just because you've already done your training. Training is part of being a nurse here in the United States. So getting the H3 is not impossible, can be very, very challenging. TN visas for nurses, we talked about that. Please go ahead and do that. And one of the things we really didn't highlight is if you're a nurse and you want a green card, come see us. There's Schedule A for green cards. Out there, we can help you get your green card and be permanent here. We've worked with many nurses over the years and working on them right now to help them get their green card. So there's a path for you. I know you guys are busy working in the rooms and it's just, you don't have time for that, but that's why we're here. Give us a call for a free consultation. We'll work with your employer, whether that's a hospital, a medical facility, or it may be even a home care situation. So there's many situations that nurses support and take care of all of us and are really needed in our community. As well, doctors. I know, I was meeting with one of our friends who's a physician the other day. I mean, you guys are crazy, crazy busy. We understand that, just like attorneys, but we're here to help. Take the 30 minutes, talk to us, come up with a plan, get that moving so that, you don't look back 5 or 10 years and say, hey, I wish I would have started this process a lot earlier. Also, getting a green card opens up your opportunities and provides a lot of stability for you and your family. All right, so we all want to thank you guys for joining us today here on the Ray Law International channel. Saki, Lauren, and I just thank you. Feel free to reach out to us. We are here for you guys, and we look forward to speaking with you guys very soon. Check out our other videos on our Ray Law International channel. We have topics ranging from everything to everything, anything immigration, and a few videos in Japanese of why I learned Japanese, and also some of my favorite foods as I put in the chat right there. Everyone, you guys have a great August, a great summer as everyone gets back into school and back from their vacations. Reach out to us, touch base. You guys have a great summer, and we will see you next month. Okay.